destruction here over Team Liquid. As they mentioned, only one kill away, or one death rather, away from a perfect game.
Unfortunately, that clinic could not resuscitate what TL was doing.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's not one of those helpful clinics.
No, that's
no. This is
I'll not go on. But yeah, great damage numbers from Team Liquid. Almost got to 15K. On the other side, Jensen 30K. Almost.
vel'koz. Let's talk about this vel'koz. We'll talk about vel'koz first, then I want to get to sejuani and Team Liquid strategy.
I'm going to just say that I personally feel like I called vel'koz being really OP because all the mages that got reworked were really OP. And then
screenshots are
vel'koz is also really difficult to play. That's why we didn't see him. That's what Jensen was trying to articulate yesterday. vel'koz, obviously only like the top echelon of players can pull it off, and it just does so much damage. Just so much of it. Wave clear and unpredictability with the little geometry.
It's a great counter pick against Team Liquid. They kind of thrive.
It's a Team Liquid counter pick?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying it's a Team Liquid counter pick. It's a great counter pick against Team Liquid because it wins most lane matchups, and obviously they're not familiar with it. So like when you're a team that needs a playmaking jungler and your mid laner to win, and you counter pick the mid laner really hard and shit on him, it's kind of over. Like, that's how it happened. It's just the end of it.
Well, I mean, they got beat everywhere, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing about this game is, like, I'm with you 100%. Not only did, Jensen did destroy everybody in this game.
Right.
But on top of that, everywhere else on the map, people are getting wrecked on the side of Team Liquid.
I mean, they got wrecked from the start. I just don't know what they're doing with the draft. I thought the whole premise of bringing in Fabbbyyy so you could take a more supportive role, and then you put Dardoch on the carry jungler, you go sejuani, like what? You take sejuani to alistar. Alistar is like the worst support for sejuani to deal with because he just stands in front, blocks the ultimate. You have no kill pressure whatsoever. Every single mobility spell gets disjointed. You have no kill pressure on vel'koz, and it's so off. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they didn't see the vel'koz yet.
Yeah.
So the pick, but I don't understand why you don't just take Gragas.
Yeah, I mean,
or anything
or Hecarim, yeah, like there's no jungle bans. We've seen Dardoch thrive on anything with early pressure, playmaking, even scaling.
Where's the horse at?
Yeah, that's exactly like, where's Hecarim?
Olaf, Hecarim, Gragas, Lee Sin, any of these would have been better. They didn't pick them. Don't know what was going on there. We don't even have replays for this game because that's how one-sided this was. And the whole game essentially broke down into 1 for 0
this
picks,
guy's dead.
Tiny little skirmishes, not respecting Ashe arrows, getting picked off there, 12K deficit by 23 minutes. Now we get a free Baron and we close it out easily.
Our replay would be beating a dead horse.
That's exactly, So,
look at this guy's got jokes.
So I want to talk about play of the game first. Jensen's picking it up here in the mid lane to vel'koz. We already touched on the value of this pick, but I now want to extend the conversation beyond just this series. Jensen, the first player to actually pull vel'koz out here in this split, showing the priority that this champion can have. Definitely something for teams to consider moving into playoffs. Granted, they will have time to come up with solutions for it.
I think this is a vel'koz that's going to spread to everybody else. I think that teams like TSM, Immortals will just be looking to pick this as soon as possible. You know, the mid laners respect Jensen. It's kind of like a trifecta of mid laners that really look up to each other and learn from themselves. And I think that seeing Jensen have so much success on this pick and knowing that you might play against each other, you have to either have a really good counter to vel'koz, which not really sure what that is.Maybe cast it in the new patch, or play it yourself. So I think that this is going to be a pick that's
be looking for Pobelter and Bjergsen to be picking up vel'koz.
Yeah, it is a really interesting pick because we've seen Bjergsen play it before into the Azir, so we know he has it semi-practiced. And then I think it's a little different than some of the other champions you see that like moving around the map and controlling the aspects of the game. vel'koz generally stays mid and just pushes you in relentlessly.
Yeah, C9, all smiles on your screen here as they did have such a dominant and controlling game here. It is important to note, though, that to a degree, this game doesn't have standings implications. And that can do many different things to the way that teams approach it. Some teams might approach this final game saying, we don't want to share information. We want to keep some things sacred and secret to ourselves. Now, at the same time, I look at a team like Team Liquid, who we've always talked about being a very emotional team. Dardoch himself is very clearly a driven individual, but he has his highs and his lows. Of all the teams for this to be an important match for in terms of momentum moving into the playoffs, I think it's most important for Team Liquid.
See, the only approach that I could kind of fathom with that sentiment is that maybe they want to show that, okay, CLG, you guys lost. We are even worse.
Underdog,
and then when they match themselves, they're like, oh, CLG's probably thinking that they're better, give them that little psychological edge, as CLG's known to play better against opponents that they deem to be better than them. So
you know, like creating locker room material that you can pin up on the bulletin board, you get smashed by C9.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't look too happy on your screens.
No, not at all. I mean, and they don't. It's going to sound mean. They don't deserve to look happy right now. That was a pretty abysmal loss. And so now here's the final thing that I want to discuss as they're making their way back to the stage for Game 2. Is this is a team that they are a playoff team. They're already locked in. They're a 5th place team. A week ago, they were in the conversation against Cloud9 for 3rd. If they had won yesterday, this game would actually be for 3rd place. And yet, here they are now locked into 5th and losing pretty disastrously to another playoff team. What happened to this squad?
It could be the trash talk curse. You say something, and then everything else goes the other way.
I mean, it could, yeah, that could be it. It could just be that they were just not that great. There were a lot of teams struggling in that mid-period. We saw C9 take a step back. We saw CLG was just starting to get back on track. Envy was starting to drop off. They got a lot of wins against those tier of teams that we had been above them previously. So it was like, oh, these guys are really, really great. And now that everyone's kind of ramping up for playoffs, even Apex, right? It could be that just everyone else is caught back up to them.
I'm not going to apologize for this. I'm going to put this on one player. I'm going to put it on Dardoch. And it's not because Dardoch is necessarily the underperformer. It's because this team, the dynamic of this team, demands that Dardoch perform in every game in order for them to get ahead. Because we do talk about all the time that if there's an area of weakness in the Team Liquid game, it's that they overpush sometimes, they overcommit, their macro game might falter in an area or two. But what they're great at, right, is some of their early game play, their individual prowess, and his pathing in particular, his early game pressure. It's not there, and it's not there on a champion like sejuani, which is why it's such a baffling pick. And so I have to put the onus onto him for the success of this squad.
Well, I gotta wonder that maybe people have been watching too much LCK and like, oh, they picked Ekko and LCK, let's try it ourselves.
Right.
Get crushed. Oh, they picked sejuani, get crushed.
We saw that, oh, they picked Kog'Maw.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe stick to more of what they know that works for them as opposed to look to other regions and try to implement it. Because I know what happens a lot is people just see, oh, they did this, instead of looking, okay, why did this work? Yeah. Why did this situation present itself that demanded this pick to be a fine pick in it? And I think that's just not what the teams are doing.
Right, they're not doing necessarily the homework to understand where picks are successful and unsuccessful and why they are.
It's like a math problem. The result is not what matters. It's that you got to it with the actual.
Yeah, you get partial credit.
Hey, you would make.
I got no credit.
I was gonna say crumbs, but you would make a fantastic high school teacher with that logic. So appreciated there. Game 2 is right around the corner, so stick around to see if we make a comeback or if Cloud9 locks into the 2-0 sweep. We're back with more League of Legends in just 3.5.